This is Thursday, the 27th of July. I'm Randy Kure with another edition of What's Up the Sports podcast. Thank you if you are joining us live via Twitter Spaces, watching on YouTube, or if you've downloaded tonight's episode on your podcast network. Always appreciate you and your comments as well. On tonight's episode, we'll touch on the free agent frenzy in the NBA and to a different degree within the beautiful game of soccer, whether you're Jaylen Brown or Fred Van Vleet, even Lionel Messi or Kylian Mbappe. A lot of dollars are being doled out as well. We'll chat about some Shohei Ohtani, the league's cup involving Major League Soccer and the newly established NBA in-season tournament set to debut this upcoming season. Excited to host tonight's roundtable, making a return of sorts, albeit a brief one, is Tony Antoniou. He last appeared around the third week of June, which, Tony, it seems like that was one of the longer stretches that you haven't been a part of the podcast. Always great to see your beautiful face. Thanks for joining.
Hey, yeah, how are you, man? Yeah, I think the last time you invited me, my daughter had soccer, so I apologize.
No.
I apologize for missing this.
No, it's always great to have you, and always great to see Dan Leggieri back in the house. Dano, how's it going?
Hello, Randy. Always happy to be here.
And tonight we have a very special guest joining us. He's a young sportscaster and a recent graduate of the sports media program at Toronto Metro University. You can find a lot of his work on platforms such as YouTube. He is Jelani Goodridge-Reid. Jelani, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Yes, thanks for having me, guys. I'm happy to be here. Talk some sports. Love to do it. I do it all the time. So perfect spot.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you. How is the summer going? I mean, in a sports context, these are known as the dog days of summer, but with Women's World Cup and we have the Jays, they're either contending for a playoff spot or just a complete disgrace. I mean, I'm sure you're keeping yourself busy.
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely watching the Women's World Cup right now. Very good matches, day in, day out. So I've been watching that, and I'm happy because for me, I'm a huge NFL guy. Probably the biggest Cowboys fan you'll ever meet. So I'm happy that training camp is back. My whole Twitter is filled with videos and news. So we're back. NFL fans are back up. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, now full disclosure, Tony is a big Buffalo Bills fan, and he's really excited these days, I'm sure. And Jelani, you may be too young or weren't even born when the Cowboys and the Bills took place and took part in the Super Bowl there. And so, Tony, I hope you're not feeling bitter with Jelani's love for the Dallas Star there.
No, I'm actually feeling worse at how old I actually am. For fuck's sake, I wasn't born. Holy Christ.
No, Dad talks about it all the time, but yeah, I was there.
So you became a Cowboys fan because of your dad?
Yeah, my dad, uncle, it's a family thing. So no, there's no bandwagon here, and I'm a real fan. Like if I know that we're not winning the Super Bowl, I will tell you straight up, we're not winning it. I'm not one of those guys that goes out there and says, "Oh, we're winning it." No, I'm a realist.
Okay, so just to be sure, you're of the opinion that the Cowboys are not going to win this year, or do you have hope?
I obviously have hope every single year, but I think it depends on Dak Prescott. I think we've seen the ceiling with him. I don't know if he could get it done. And I love Mahomes. So probably lean with the Chiefs or Bengals this year. The winner will be in the AFC. Yeah.
Hey, Dano, I mean, sorry, Jelani, you were saying?
Oh no, or the Bills. You never know. Some other contenders are there. You never know.
I still don't think they're better than both those teams. I think the Bills will be exactly where they finished the last couple of years.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, Dano, I mean, very quickly, I mean, I remember you were a big Peyton Manning fan during those days of when we were a lot closer during our school days. And for me personally, like I am a not bandwagon, fair weather fan more so right now, just because I went to a couple of Tampa Bay Buccaneer games at Raymond James. Like I am leaning towards the Buccaneers. Dano, do you have a team these days?
No NFL affiliation. There's my old man is a Saints fan, and I cheer for the Bills just for proximity to Toronto. But other than that, I am a free agent when it comes to an NFL fan.
All right. Yeah, no, it's definitely. And hey, training camp, as Jelani mentioned, is getting close. And I mean, the first week of the season, snap of a finger, it's going to be here amongst us before you know it. Guys, I'd love to start off with a topic that we have chatted about in the past. And Jelani, with you here, love to get your thoughts on what sports media is turning out to be these days. And, the four of us are obviously big sports fans. And not only that, we're obviously fans of this journalism broadcasting dynamic. And, it just seems that as each day passes, traditional media outlets are, phasing out, newspapers, magazines, that's on its last legs, local sports coverage as well. Jelani, as a recent graduate of the sports media program, I mean, what does the future look like, with regards to sports media? I mean, what were you taught, and specifically, what do you think subscribers and viewers these days are looking for when it comes to following sports?
Yeah, no, I think the program at Toronto Metro was fantastic. You have the opportunity to do what you want to do, which I like. So I went in there. Obviously, I wanted to be a host. But the first day, they're like, okay, yes, you could want to do that, but we recommend you definitely dive into other things as well. So I gained experience in social media management, communications, PR type of things as well, and also writing. So I had the opportunity to do those things along with hosting duties, in shows during TV classes and things like that. So I think there's a good spot for anyone that's looking to get in this business. And you don't even have to stick with sports. I'm even, a guy that loves music and culture, entertainment. So I'm looking at those avenues too. But yeah, in terms of where it's going, I think a lot of people my age, like early 20s and things like that, teenagers, we're we're people that love to go on the fly with things. We love social media. And I think when you're watching the game, like for example, me, I'm always on the phone. I will be watching the game, but I'm always on the phone for updates, for highlights, things of that nature. And I think that's where we're headed. So it's not only gonna be just sitting down for 3 hours and watching a game, right? And I think just going back to the social media point, you're seeing the rise of TikTok. Okay, it's not just for comedic purposes. You're seeing personalities be brought to the stage there as well. So people have made their name off of TikTok and their personality there. YouTube obviously has been here for a while, and I think that's definitely one of the best places to really get your name out there, get your work out there. So I think YouTube will remain huge, and yeah, I just think the quicker you are with your takes, like if you're somebody that likes doing your sports takes, people aren't really sitting around, to watch you talk for 15 minutes straight or plus. And, it's got to be quicker videos. So that's why we're seeing IG Reels on Instagram. Those have popped up as well in terms of people looking to get their voice out there, their takes out there, depending on the sport that they follow, or just even showcasing their fandom. I did that with the Cowboys. That's what helped me get into the program as well. Like back in the day with Snapchat, I would just literally give you my live reactions on every Sunday because I look, I love them. I love the Cowboys. I'm passionate. And I think that helps. I think that helps a lot. So yeah, I think definitely moving forward, you're going to see a lot more podcasts like this as well. Podcasting has been huge. And real quick, the one thing is, it's not only just the fan, it's not just people that are into the business of sport media, but it's also athletes have come into this space now. We're seeing that obviously with so many people. Jeff Teague, I watch his pod. Paul George, love his pod as well. You're seeing with other sports too. So I think that's where we're headed. We're definitely not going to be seeing the traditional ESPN tables anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking of Paul George and Jeff Teague, and I mean, the list goes on and on between the Kelsey brothers, the Manning brothers, LeBron James has a very popular show, JJ Redick, and so on. And it's funny you mentioned about personalities, and that is coming to the forefront, because to me it just seems like such a polarizing topic, in the sense of a broadcaster having a point of view, but it's more so met with a lot of criticism, feedback. If you want to call it trolling, so be it. From a broadcaster's point of view, is there also a reluctance to really show their opinion? Because it just seems that a lot of times we've seen examples of people scaling back what they said X amount of days beforehand.
Yeah, I know. Like for me personally, like even when I've written like with Fansided with the first pick for like NFL draft coverage, I don't really hold back, to be honest with you. Like if I see something, if I have an opinion, I'm going to share it. Feel free to go against the opinion, but it's my opinion. You know what I mean? So I think that's where we're moving. I don't really think people care anymore what they say. Yes, there is though still a reluctance, depending on subject, depending on topic or player, or that you're covering. You might want to scale back a bit on it, but for the most part, these takes, these opinions really make who you are as a personality, as a broadcaster, as someone who is trying to find a voice. So you can't really be scared about saying something, right? For example, this past NFL season, going back to the Bills point, for example, I was somebody that had the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl and winning it all year long. And I told Bills fans, because a lot of our, with the homestand NFL shows, a lot of the following was Bills Mafia. But I kept telling them, hey guys, I have the fraud watch. That's what I'm known for, the Jelani's fraud watch, hashtag that. I kept putting them on the fraud watch because I just didn't see it. I didn't see them going, the next level. And then I told them, Bills Mafia, watch out. This divisional game against the Bengals is going to be a tough one. I said the Bengals are going to win this game, blah, blah, blah. And they went after me, right? They went after me in the comments. You'll see it. I don't recommend that, as a broadcaster, as a writer, whatever. I don't recommend you read comments on social. It's going to happen. People are going to like your opinion. People aren't. It happens. But yeah, people didn't like my stuff. I don't really care. I didn't really care if they agreed or not. And at the end of the day, I was right. So thank you very much. But that's just an example, right? You can't hold back. You can't hold back. I'm trying to find a voice. I'm trying to, grow the following, the audience that I have. You got to be yourself.
Yeah, got to be yourself, and definitely genuine as well. And Dano, speaking of genuine, I'm really have noticed a shift in team support from a fan's perspective. I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but it seems that the support for the local team doesn't appeal so much as fans today. Like I remember going to Raptor games, and especially before they won the championship, that a lot of fans were cheering for the other team, whether it was the Bulls or whether it was the Miami Heat when the big three were there. And I mean, it's obvious that a lot more and more different teams from outside said person's hometown is more accessible with television and packages such as MLB Network and so on. But I mean, have you noticed a shift as well where fans are not supporting the local team like it was 10, 20 years ago?
Yeah, it's hard to say, because I don't know that it's completely gone. Like if you look at the Jays were in Minnesota, or not Minnesota, they were in Seattle this past weekend, earlier this week, and half the stadium was Blue Jay fans, like loyal Blue Jay fans from that part of either our country or that part of the U.S. So, pride in your hometown team still runs deep. Fan loyalty still runs deep, but Jelani alluded to it. We're in a different world now. Information is more accessible. Even seeking out people's reactions to plays that are happening in the moment are just part of watching sports now. You as soon as as soon as Canada ties it up against
Ireland.
oh my God, I got who they played, Ireland, right? Like the first place you go is on Twitter or to Twitter or to TikTok or to Threads, God forbid, to figure out to hear what your friends are saying, what your local sports writers are saying, what your favorite personalities feel about it, just to get that reaction, be part of that conversation. But globally, sports is changing too. We talked about Live Golf last time I was on the podcast, and I'm sure we might dabble into what Saudi Arabia is trying to do to the soccer world.
We will.
The dynamics, and the power globally in sports is shifting, and the way that people consume it is shifting. So I don't know. I feel like I think we all might be good examples. Cowboy fan just because of not just because of, but because of influence from family or loyalty to the Bills or TFC or the Pittsburgh Penguins like Tony has, or I'm just a everything Toronto fan. If it's the Raptors or the Leafs or TFC or just Buffalo by proximity of being the closest to. I'm that sort of minded sports fan where I like to cheer for my hometown team just because the information is not as much a struggle for me to find. I'm an older guy, so I'm used to getting my information in a more traditional medium. Not to say that I'm not adept on social media as well, but so I think it's a good mix of both, and I think that over time too, or if guys in their early teens and 20s are starting to grow a love for sport, either based on a love for an individual, like my son with Ronaldo, or if you're a guy whose bloodline runs deep with the Dallas Cowboys, your early sports days are meant to find where you think you belong, who you identify with, who you enjoy the way that they run their organization or the way that they groom players, or maybe even what they do in the community, if that's your thing. And then those start to set in when you become 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. And then you're like, what, fuck it, I'm not going anywhere anyway. I've been with this team long enough. And if you're a Leaf fan, if you're used to losing, or if you're a Bills fan even, I guess, or a Cowboys fan, anybody, you want to be able to look somebody in the eye when they finally do win after 20, 30 years and say, fuck you, I've been here since day one. I've been through thick and thin, and I've earned this championship just as much as anybody else. It's a little bit different than World Cup because you're sort of born into those loyalties. That's just part of your DNA. But sports fandom outside of that, just based on where you live or where you grew up or what your parents might have liked, I think to quote Pearl Jam, everything has changed, but nothing's changed at the same time. So yes, things are different, and the way that we absorb information is different. But I don't know that fan loyalty is all that different than what it used to be. It's great that we have the ability to enjoy the sports more than just our teams, and we can do that through our IPTVs or our streaming services that allow us to watch out of state games or out of market games that we didn't get to do in the 80s and 90s when we were kids. So I think it's good for the game globally, but I think fans will be fans, pride will be pride, egos will win in the end, and brands won't have any worry as long as they put on good products of retaining fans. I think that they'll be good in the long run.
It's interesting because I don't know if I think I'm still on the fence on that because, you see outlets like DAZN paying an exorbitant amount of money for certain coverage of their sports. And to me, it's like, how in the world are these outlets affording this kind of money? And, Tony, it was, to my surprise, to hear just a couple of days ago that the New York Times cut ties with their sports department, and they're going to rely for sports coverage with The Athletic. And locally here in Toronto, the four of us are in the Toronto area. CTV had cut their sports department, and it's there's a lot of consolidation these days. And obviously revenue is what it is, and viewers, when you get more viewers, you get more revenue, and you get more dollars coming into your various teams and leagues. And I mean, I guess to bring it back with regards to followers, like, do you think that this, by consolidating, going with The Athletic, with DAZN, Apple TV, of course, we've had discussions about MLS coverage going to Apple TV. I mean, these kind of mergers, I mean, do you think that it'll benefit sports leagues as a whole?
Remains to be seen. It's funny. I was trying to put some thought into when you sent the lineup, and I was looking through it, and I think Jelani has nailed pretty much everything that came to mind. It's a new world. It's a new age of consuming sports. As a 47-year-old guy, even myself, I'm totally into Twitter and stuff. I do the same thing. Now, I refuse to record games or stream them or go back and watch them. When my team's playing, I make time. I got to sit down and watch it live. But I do the same thing. Like, I'm on Twitter flipping through. If a bad play happens, I see what people are saying about it. That's just I hate myself for that. But that's how it is. Now, with The Athletic, the New York Times, even ESPN had massive cuts a couple of weeks ago, like some prominent names. Everybody wants their content quick, fast, so nobody's got time to sit around and watch a 3-hour game, like Jelani said. Watching Sports Center and going through an entire hour of highlight packages, you don't need to do that anymore, because once something happens in real time, you flip through Twitter, you flip through Instagram, it's there, you got the highlight, you know what the score is. Chances are you're in a fantasy league. So for the New York Times to make that kind of cut, it's probably more profitable for them just to have an outside source taking care of their sports for them than it is to have an entire department in their offices occupying their space, sending them on the road, you know what I mean, on their dime. The Athletic they were actually dying too. Like they were on life support prior to this happening. You can kind of look at the Athletic, and they're comparable to kind of like the WNBA, where they're being propped up by the sugar daddy, even though they're just bleeding money, right? I mean, they forced the WNBA down our throats everywhere you turn. Hardly anybody's watching it. If it wasn't for the NBA, it probably wouldn't be in existence. But the way we consume sports is completely different, and that's part of it. I also think there are some networks that have chosen an interesting route in terms of how their messaging is and how they cover sports. I think it got way too political. I think their political leanings started shining, and I think that turned people off as well. I know for myself, personally, there are writers I can't stand reading anymore, because unfortunately I started following them on Twitter, and all they did was just shoot out their, just mass, like, angry tweets all the time about the world, the culture, this guy, that guy, Trump's a racist, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And it's like, I just fucking want to see what your opinion is. Give me a good article to read. I can name 5 writers who I stopped following or reading, guys who I really enjoyed, because it was too much for me. I just want to watch sports. I think that's a factor too. I think that's a factor into ESPN kind of losing viewership as well. Cable rates are high. There's another thing. So people are going, Dan, you mentioned IPTV. People are going in that direction. So you've got everything at a cheaper rate. So many different reasons for it. I think all of that is a factor for sure. I mean, I know for myself, the only time I actually read a newspaper article these days is Steve Simmons' Sunday article. I'm still, 100% committed to Steve Simmons and his Sunday article. It's one of my favorite things to do every Sunday morning. But I do it on Twitter. I don't buy a newspaper anymore. So I think sports broadcasting and sports journalism as we knew it growing up, I think it's dead. And I don't think the linear, the radio aspect of it too, like here in Toronto, the fan, I don't know how much of the fan you listen to, but it's awful. Like,
Well, I mean,
so bad.
I've gotten to like TSN Overdrive.
That's all I'll listen to as well, and it's only because of Jeff O'Neill. For me, his presence, he's a different kind of animal. Like
Yeah.
I enjoy the show overall. I mean, I like all three of them, but Jeff O'Neill is the reason. I mean, he's on hiatus during the summer, and I barely listen to it now.
Yeah. No, you know what? I do like Brian Hayes a lot. I think that he is such a great wordsmith, and I do like his delivery. And
They
with
work
regards
well
to
together. They
yeah,
all
no,
work well
absolutely,
together for
absolutely.
sure.
And I mean, I do think that the consistency of the traditional outlet is something that I think may get lost. Is there going to be in the future a 5 day a week at 5 p.m. This show and so on, or is it going to be whenever they have the opportunity to post? And I mean, obviously that remains to be seen. But
Well, it's the easiest way for me because I'm in my car a lot, and that's where I get my content. Right, whether it be podcasts on politics, culture, and sports, it's all there for me. I'm not sitting in front of the TV to watch it as much as I used to. Right,
Yeah.
or I'm not flipping the fan and TSN radio back and forth. I have I have my specific podcast for AC Milan, specific podcast for soccer, like globally. I listen to Spit and Chicklets, and then a whole bunch of other like political stuff. I listen to Jason Whitlock a lot, who brings sports, culture, politics, biblical stuff. I really enjoy his stuff, and that's how people are consuming it now. It's just and a lot more people are becoming their own content creators as well. You're noticing it with Stephen A. Smith as an example. Like he still gets paid really well at ESPN, but you can slowly see him branching out with his own content. He's got his own show. He runs it. He pays for it. And you're also starting to see a Stephen A. Smith who's a little different from the guy on TV. He's a little bit more of
Yeah.
himself. He's got a bit of a red pill inside him, and he's giving. Yeah, no, and it's good to listen. And he invites debates with people that he doesn't see eye to eye with, which I think is amazing, right? So all of a sudden, I find myself enjoying Stephen A. Smith more than I did when he was on ESPN.
yeah.
So
I,
sorry, go on.
sorry, Tony. I was going to ask Jelani actually because the line in terms of language is quite different from internet versus television and radio. I mean, you have to be very careful with salty language, especially on a television sense. Not to put you on the spot here, but I mean, is that something that the internet you think may change? I mean, I do find it kind of ironic that teenagers and young people are watching content that is a lot more vulgar, for lack of a better term. But like, do you, in your studies and so on, I mean, do you think that there is going to be more of, I guess, of a standard, for lack of a better term, when it comes to language, questionable commentary, and so on?
Yeah, I think it depends. Like, if your show's on like the national airwaves, you still might have to, follow a strict rule, just depending on language, what you're talking about, topics as well. What the producers are wanting in terms of your topics. But overall, I think it might change. To be honest with you, like as time goes on, and as more content creators come up and become bigger than they are, just given their social media following and things of that nature, you might see more people, be like, this is me. This is me. This is what I like to talk about. Even just going back to the Whitlock point that Tony had. He's somebody that's known for having a stance, and he'll stay there no matter what. Stephen A. Smith, we know what he's done already. And as for younger people, I'm even seeing it too. The language that you'll see on TV, definitely different than what you're going to see on someone's TikTok page. When they're spinning a take or something like that, or when they're having a debate. There's some shows that, the content is very vulgar. They'll have a debate like a first take type of deal, but the things that they're saying, the way that they're going with it is a lot different than what you're going to see on TSN or ESPN, like or things of that nature, Sportsnet. So I think definitely as time goes on, you're going to see a difference, and even in podcasting as well. I think podcasting, because I feel like radio is different than the podcast, and I think radio is dying, sadly. I am someone who appreciates radio, but I just find that it's not there's not much of a following, especially with people my age. So that's why I think it's going the other direction, and you're going to see more podcasters because everyone, it seems, now has a podcast. Everybody has a mic. I have a mic right
Present.
there. But,
right here.
yeah, right here. So yeah, and on those shows, you're seeing, like, we've been talking about personality. We've been talking about the freedom of speech, freedom of topic. If it's their show, they're going to take it a certain direction. So it's really just going back to who's your demographic. That's the most important thing. The demographics. Who are you trying to appeal to? Who are you trying to talk to? Who is the show for? The storyline, right? That's what sports are. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of change.
And there definitely does seem to be a lack of authenticity from the televisions and the radios out there. And it just seems that these broadcasters are a lot more free to, truly speak their opinion. So, thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts there, guys. It's always interesting to see, how not only sports media, but just media in general is evolving to what it is and what it may be in the future. And speaking of the future, I mean, what does the future hold for our beloved Toronto Raptors? I mean, it was just 4 years ago that, of course, they lifted the Larry O'Brien Trophy, and now times have definitely changed. Dano, you and I, the last time we got together, we weren't 100% sure of the future for Fred Van Vleet, and Fred's a very rich man these days. Of course, he signed with the Houston Rockets to the tune of $128 million, which, as we get to in a moment, seems to be chump change, especially if you're comparing it to Jaylen Brown. Dan, your initial thoughts on Fred leaving the Toronto Raptors? He became an all-star, he became a champion, and now the Raptors are part of his history.
Yeah, I think I was kind of I don't know. It's fine. That's my opinion. Like I honestly do not care. In my opinion, and from my point of view, Fred was never the heart or the emotional backbone of this team that some people maybe thought he was or could be. I know he played with emotion. I know that he was. He was revered for his run when they won the championship and his play afterwards. But I don't know that he ever really took the mantle from a Kyle Lowry or a DeMar DeRozan. I don't know that he ever elevated himself to that point wide enough outside of diehard Raptor fan, outside of that base to, have people crying in the streets that he's gone. I'm sure at the same time that most observers would say that Houston overpaid for him, and they're like, well, if he can go get it, go get it. Good on you. But it's fine. I don't care that he's gone, and I don't know that honestly he makes Houston any better. I think it was an overpay, and we'll just turn the page and focus on what we have here and see what the future brings for the Raptors.
Well, it definitely did seem that Houston is obviously in a period of transition. They have a lot of young prospects. Who knows what they're going to be in the future? But it did seem like a great opportunity for Fred to capitalize on a big contract. And there is quite a bit that I do agree with. And really, how much of a difference maker is Fred Van Vleet in the grand scheme of things? And obviously, he was instrumental in the championship run for the Raptors, but the past couple of years have been quite difficult and a lot different from those days. And, Tony, I mean, when it comes to Van Vleet, and I'm sure a lot of fans would have loved to have seen him stay, but is it more so because of the nostalgia of Fred Van Vleet, because he was a part of that championship team? Or do you think that there was a lot of belief that Fred Van Vleet could have been a difference maker for the Raptors in the upcoming season or two?
I don't think they believe that. I just think Fred Van Vleet was he's a great story, and the story is continuing, right? Like Mr. Bet on Yourself, undrafted, and what he came from and what he's become. The first thing I thought when he signed that contract with the Houston Rockets was like, good for you, man. Keep going. Whatever you're doing is working, and go for it. I just wish they would have traded him at the deadline, see if there was, some kind of return that they could have gotten for him. That's the direction the Raptors should have been taking. So I'm not upset that we lost him. I'm upset that we lost him for nothing, because he is an attractive player, no matter how you slice it. It's not just, player, it's also character, and he possesses a giant amount of character, and I think he'll help the young guys in Houston, be better professionals. And now, is that worth, 40 whatever $1 million he's making a year? No, but that's the market. The cap is going up in the NBA. It's going to go up big time, and they've got to pay to the ceiling. I believe the NBA has a ceiling as well. That a floor that you have to pay, a floor. So he became a free agent at the right time, man. Good for him. I'm really happy for him. I think his story was great, and I hope we don't forget it here in Toronto, because it's an inspirational one.
Well, Jelani, before we talk about Jaylen Brown, it seems that you were in agreement with Tony about, letting Fred Van Vleet go for nothing. And, not really to play devil's advocate, but, look, when the Raptors traded Kyle Lowry, the Raptors got Precious Achiuwa, but there was the headache that was Goran Dragic, and there is a part of me that, sure, it would have been great to get something in return, but there is a part of me that thinks it's kind of overblown. Do you kind of get where I'm coming from here?
I get what you're saying. I felt like the Raptors had a ceiling. Preseason prediction for me, I said they're going to be a bottom play-in team. I didn't see them doing anything in the playoffs, and I was just shocked that Masai and Bobby, they went all in at the deadline. It didn't make any sense to me. Yes, Pirtle, I like the fact that he's been here before, with Pascal as his boy, whatever. He did give a new complexion to the offense and defense, yes, but I just felt like the way that the market was looking, the Raptors could have probably done something, get some assets back, some picks back at the deadline. That's what I felt. And I really think they dropped the ball at the deadline. I'm going to miss Fred because I like him. I think he's a good player. He's definitely a guy that Raptors fans loved to have here. His story is fantastic. We know that. But yeah, I felt like I agree with both of you guys. It was an overpay. He's making more than Kyrie Irving. I get it, the whole stuff with Kyrie off the court, but 3 years, 126, I believe, is Kyrie Irving. A guy like Fred, he's getting superstar money. Is he a superstar? No. He will help out Houston for sure, though. He's going to give, more looks to Jabari Smith and guys like Şengün. And then obviously Jalen Green, my guy, I think he's going to get more opportunities just because he'll be, he won't have all the wear and tear of having to hold down the fort all the time. But yeah, I think that Masai and these guys, they failed at the deadline. I really do think so.
I think where I may see the point of view from Ujiri and Webster is that the foundation does seem to be pretty decent. When you have someone like Siakam, I don't know what each of your thoughts are on a guy like Pascal Siakam. Do I think he can lead the team to a championship like a Giannis, like Kawhi did here in Toronto? No, but when you have a defensive stalwart like OG Anunoby, when you have a rising star like Scotty Barnes, when you have somebody like Pascal Siakam and an actual center like a Jakob Poeltl, why not go forward? The Miami Heat, they were an 8th seed and made it to the finals. So get in the playoffs and see what happens. I mean, I was more so surprised about letting Kyle Lowry go on in the year in Tampa and then trade him at the deadline, because I mean, that season was just a complete dumpster fire. Siakam wasn't the same. Was there a possibility of getting a couple of pieces of some better pieces than what the Raptors received? Maybe. But I'm not saying that they're an NBA, a threat to win a championship, but I think they were on the right track. I mean, does anybody disagree? With like the Siakams, Barnes, and Anunoby?
Probably, I would guess all of us
go
disagree.
Please,
I would have looked at seeing what you can get for Siakam too. I just felt this was the right opportunity to make that transition. I thought this was a good time for the Raptors, especially you end up firing Nick Nurse. So I'm thinking if you're going to bring in and you hire, a coach with an experience, boom, there you go. That should have been set the track for the rebuild. Build around Scotty.
But how much?
We got Dick now too. So.
But how much would Scotty Barnes want to stick around in Toronto? I mean, if you're rebuilding, and Scotty Barnes, I mean, the jury's still out on whether he could be that kind of generational talent. But
if you're building the team around him, you'd think that'd be flattering for the player, no, right? You would think, right? I mean, maybe he wants that to happen. Maybe he wants it to become his team. I'm not inside these people's heads, but I mean, he's a young enough guy where he can grow with a new team and transition, especially knowing that you're going to be the focal point. Hey, I don't pretend to know as much about basketball as you guys, but what I saw was an opportunity to break away from that 2019 team and make the transition to a rebuild.
Well, and it is, whether Scotty Barnes wants to have that kind of spotlight, being the focal point of the Toronto Raptors. It'll be interesting to see if he could actually evolve to that. But it does seem that Jaylen Brown is a key piece for the Boston Celtics. I mean, that was obviously obvious with Brown's run with the Celtics along with Jason Tatum. But Jelani, of course, the big news was that Jaylen Brown did re-sign with the Celtics, $304 million for 5 years. Now, Tony did mention that the salary cap is expected to go up. But regardless, how do you think the Celtics can build around a team when you have that kind of contract, let alone with Jason Tatum eventually going to be a free agent in a couple years?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very intriguing to see where they go, because I feel like Boston has to get it done very soon. They have the window wide open right now. They went to the finals in 22. So they've been here. They've been there. They've done that. I think a lot of people have been talking about, do you trade one of the JT or JB? I said don't do it. I'm somebody that likes them together, and I think they can win a championship together. I still believe that. And now, just talking about the team aspect, seeing Kristaps Porzingis there now, it's going to be interesting because you move off of Smart, and Smart was the backbone to a premier defense in the NBA. And you also move off of Grant Williams, too. A lot of people are forgetting about that. He's definitely somebody that helped that defense out as they cleared cap room. So they move off of him. It's going to be intriguing to see because Kristaps is more of an offensive type of guy. He can play a bit of defense, but they're going to have more emphasis on offense just because Mazzulla, he's different than Udoka. Udoka was more of a defensive guy. Mazzulla is an offensive guy. So the schemes are going to be different. I'm interested to see how it's going to work out just because I think Kristaps is different than a guy like Al Horford. I think Al Horford's more of a pick and pop dude on that offense, but Kristaps, he could rebound, so he'll get you the second chance points. He can do the pick and pop. He could shoot from downtown. He could create his own shot. The pick and roll is going to be there as well. So I think it's going to be like I said, interesting. I think it's going to be fun to watch their offense. I just don't know. The questions will be on the defensive side. Can they do the same thing that they've been doing past few years, prior to Missoula, which is be really, really dominant on that end. But overall, like just talking about Tatum's deal is going to come up soon. I think he'll be eligible for like 318, I believe, million on 5 years. And that will go up to, I think, 338 million
right.
if the cap jumps up like about 10% over the next 2 years. So it's going to be interesting to see, man.
Yeah, I mean, this fact of the matter is, and it's been like that for years, that salaries are just going up more and more, and when are we going to see that $400 million, $500 million contract? You have to think that it's eventually going to come.
Yeah.
Back to the Raptors and sports in Canada in general, guys. And I mean, there's definitely been some peaks and valleys over the past few years. Toronto FC wins MLS Cup, the incredible run the Canadian men's soccer team had qualifying for the Qatar World Cup. That moment when Alphonso Davies scored that goal. And of course, the Raptors run, winning the championship in 2019. It seems that when it comes to sports executives, sports decision makers, I mean, was there anybody more revered than a Masai Ujiri, than a John Herdman, the coach? And these days, it seems that they're faced with a lot more criticism. And you have to wonder how much longer either guy can ride out this wave. And I don't know if it is an unfair comparison, but anybody with regards to Masai or John Herdman, who do you think has more pressure to get back on the winning track, if you will? Anybody?
It's got to be Herdman, truthfully. I think we talked about it before. Masai is still building a team that's going to, at very least, contend to be a team that's worth watching. And in the business that is sports, maybe that's all you need these days. Maybe championships aren't even that important. But soccer in Canada, they need to do something. We're one of 3 hosts for the World Cup next time it comes around, and there's going to be some fanfare and some intrigue just based on that. But if they feel the shit team that doesn't score a goal, I don't know that it's going to bode all that well. And I think people were expecting more from the team that went to Qatar in the World Cup in this past winter, and we left really disappointed. I remember we had a podcast in between the first and second games that Canada played, and we were talking about them coming out of the fucking division, right? We were talking about them contending in the round of 16, and then they just completely fell on their faces in the second half of the second game, and were nowhere to be found in the third game. And I think people were left that tournament thinking to themselves, like, why were people talking so much about this team heading into this tournament when this was the result? And I don't know that people feel that way about the Raptors. I think there's again the people watching the Raptors is a smaller community. I know it's Canada's team, but the focal point is mainly in Toronto. And if you look at the team objectively, we've talked about it already, where it feels like a natural progression of, they were a really dominant team. They were a first place team for years, for 3-4 years. They walked away with a few division titles, contended for a championship, and ultimately winning in that championship in 2019. And now they're going through a soft rebuild where they're not packing it in by any means. But I don't know that they're the same level of championship contender as they were. But I think that that's more understandable than the perception of what's happening with Canada's soccer generally, not just the men, the women as well. There doesn't seem to be the fire behind that seems to have diminished a little bit.
Yeah, Jelani, what do you think? I mean, with regards to Masai Ujiri, I mean, obviously everything he touched turned into gold. And now you think about, uh, I mean, even before re-signing, potentially re-signing, trading Fred Van Vleet or Kyle Lowry, there was the decision made with regards to Marc Gasol versus Serge Ibaka. And I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, is there more pressure between Masai and John Herdman, in your opinion?
I like the points that were just pointed out about Herdman and Canada's soccer team, because yeah, you're talking about everyone loves the squad, loves what they've been doing as of late, women and men. But yeah, with the World Cup also coming pretty soon, yeah, there's going to be some pressure to get back on top and do more on top. But yeah, I think it's got to be Masai here, just because, like, yes, the championship happened. Thank you very much. I never thought I'd see the day. But since that time, there are questionable moves that I find, with the Raptors front office. Just people that they brought in, people that they said they want to keep, haven't kept. There's so many questions. And I think, honestly, the Raptors fandom, I find that they're a bit fed up as of late. Whether if that's the newer fans who saw the run in 2019 and are kind of spoiled and feel like that's what's supposed to happen every single year, or if it's just the regular Raptors fan that has been here since the 2000s and saw the tough times, because there were tough times, and they've been spoiled to believing that this is a perennial playoff team in the NBA. Because if you're looking at it, the last decade, winningest teams in the NBA, I think the Raptors are only behind the Warriors and the Clippers, if I'm not mistaken. So
Really?
I do think, yeah, I think that I think prior to 2023 season, but yeah, they've been one of those teams since Masai got here. But I just find that now, with the success that the Raptors have had with this era, Kyle, DeMar, then Kawhi, and now with Scotty and Pascal, I just think that the fans have been pretty spoiled into believing that this team should contend year in, year out. And that's why I find that Masai, he might have to do something. Bobby, they might have to get something done, in terms of winning. Because then the questions are, because I even saw, like, the American media and American fans of the NBA, they were questioning, hey, what's happening with Masai Ujiri? Has he lost a bit of that prestige? Because remember, that deal in 2018 to get Kawhi was massive. It was such a gamble and it worked. But has that prestige gone away a bit over the last few years? Tampa, I'm not going to, blame them for that. That was a crazy year. But, just the past few years have been skeptical. So I would say Masai Ujiri and the Raptors have to get back on their feet. Again, I do think, though, they should start fresh. I agree with trading Pascal. I felt like that should have been done. That's just my opinion. I like Pascal a lot. I just find that there's a ceiling with him that I've seen. Same with Fred Van Vleet. That's why I'm fine with him leaving. But yeah, as time goes on, the Raptors and the fans, they want to see a winner. Of course, they want to see a winner. So I want to see, can Masai get back there? Can he get back to making those deals? Because also he hasn't pulled the trigger on some. He could have done some things. Remember KD, with the Scotty rumors last summer, that could have happened. I don't know if I don't know if you agree with that, but Damian Lillard, there's things like that have been
I
out there.
wouldn't have
So
done. I wouldn't have done. And
KD
it's
and
funny
Scotty, yeah.
because Tony and I had a chat with regards specifically Kevin Durant for Scotty
Mhm.
Barnes, and at the time, I said no chance. I mean, Kevin Durant
Yeah,
is Kevin Durant is obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer,
yeah.
one of the best players ever to play the game potentially, but. I mean, he's still 37 years old at the time. Like, I mean, he's gonna the clock's
Kevin
gonna
Durant.
strike
It's Kevin
12
Durant.
soon. Say it again.
It's Kevin Durant. I
What?
was with you. I said Scotty Barnes is young. He's rookie of the year. He's going to be the future of the team, so you don't move him. But as time went on, I was like, man, imagine KD with this team. You never know. I don't know. It's a tricky one. But yeah, I think the Raptors for your question for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, now let's see what happens with Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns, and
Yeah.
yeah, imagine what Kevin Durant would look like in a Raptors uniform. But these days, we're getting used to the fact that Lionel Messi is wearing an Inter Miami jersey, and in a very short period of time, Lionel Messi has been the obvious difference maker that we all expected him to be. I mean, Dano. 3 goals in the first 64 minutes that he has played for Inter Miami. I mean, the wave of celebrities have made its way to MLS matches. I mean, they're not even MLS regular season matches. And Lionel Messi has tapped into a market that really hasn't experienced Lionel Messi the way that Europe has, and especially Argentina. With Lionel Messi there, Sergio Busquets, Spanish international World Cup winner with Spain there. There's a possibility of Luis Suarez joining Inter. Is this a good thing for super teams specifically in MLS?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of super teams. Going back to when it was invented by LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and
Well,
our
I
boy.
say I before you continue,
Yeah,
I do say it was invented with KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. But go ahead.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I always like to go back to that. It was one of my favorite moments in sports when LeBron sitting on that stage and he goes, "Not four, not five, not six." I love it. I love it. I think it's great. I think it draws people in. It draws in fans who want to see the best players play. In this case, Busquets and Messi should not lose an MLS game for the rest of this season anyway. And it would be lovely to see Miami go from last place to championship team with those players in place. I don't even know if they have the time, honestly. But I think it's great. I think it creates enemies in some views, which is good for the game. It creates, a real sense of look how shit things are here and look how much better they are elsewhere. And we're going to keep doing our best to grow the game. And I think it came at a good time. We were just talking about, things losing momentum. The U.S. men's national team, the soccer team, isn't doing as well as they were doing previously as well. So I think it comes at a good time where, they're in the same boat. They're going to be World Cup hosts, definitely more prominently than Canada will be or Mexico. So I think that they've got 3 years to, really get the fire under the butts of the consumers until the World Cup comes here. So it's a good lead-in. I hope Messi keeps doing wonderful things that puts him on the front page of the papers and in the highlight packages and all over social media that gets people talking about soccer and MLS in North America. And generally, super teams are always welcome in my books because they're fun to watch. Whether you love them or you hate them, you want to root for them or against them. They're always a ton of fun and they never disappoint in that sense.
I hate super teams. I hate
And I
super teams. And even worse. Say it again.
I said if we could have a whole league of super teams, but then that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But we could have one in every league. That would be great.
I mean, I don't like generalizing a group of people, but I'm going to obviously by saying that I just absolutely despise fans from Miami. I mean, like how can you leave the NBA Finals? What was it, Game 6 when Ray Allen hit the shot? So many fans left the arena. And I mean, like Miami fans, they show up late. They have better things to do. And this can't. I am just so bitter. But I mean, whatever. Like, I probably wouldn't be saying the same thing if this team converged to Toronto. So maybe I should digress. But Jelani, of course, as we're talking about peaks and valleys, I mean, what are your thoughts with regards to soccer in this country? I mean, the reality is that Toronto FC had an incredible run with making MLS Cup in not only 2016, but winning in 2017, also making the finals in 2019. They went to the CONCACAF Champions League final. And of course, everything that's going on with the men's team, with the past World Cup. The women's team, of course, is doing some great things, and they're currently hopefully in a good position to make it to the next round of the Women's World Cup that's taking place right now. But it just seems to me that these days soccer has been a bit of an afterthought, in the sense that MLS matches are off to Apple TV. Toronto FC is having such a terrible year, and everything going on with soccer Canada Soccer, the federation as a whole. I mean, has the momentum dropped? And do you think that it is a significant dip in following soccer in this country?
I think what you pointed out with the whole situation with the federation has really changed things. Like, I haven't seen that much hype for the women's team this tournament, just because I think that cloud is still there. And just comparing the hype that was here for 2019 Women's World Cup, I think it was even different then, because there was more people talking about it. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that the momentum has dwindled or anything. I still find that soccer is growing. I think the participation, with the youth has been there, and it's going to continue to increase, not only in Canada but in the USA as well. And yes, I get it. TFC has not had a good year at all, which has caused some problems with TFC fans for sure. But I think that people I know that follow the MLS and follow TFC, they still love their TFC football. They still love it. They're still going to show up for it. And you talk to people that have been to matches at BMO. They love the facility. They love the venue, and they just love the vibe that they get when they're watching the team, no matter whether they're good or not. But I do think, though, those years where they did go to the MLS Cup, I think that really helped. That really helped. Gain a huge fan base. Just speaking of MLS and TFC, because we saw that it wasn't only people, talking about the international squads, or our Canada Soccer. I think it was people talking about, the city of Toronto celebrating a winner. And it has lingered. The time has gone on since those days, but you still see that the following is there with the TFC and MLS. The only thing is, though, with the momentum here, can the MLS, I'm looking at the MLS specifically, can it, continue to grow? We're talking about Messi, of course. Look, I'm a Ronaldo guy. Okay, that's my goal. But I do like that Messi's here. I do like that he's here because it's making people watch the game more. I think MLS, give it a decade to 15 years, I think it will be number 3. It will be in the top 3 in terms of America specifically. You're talking about football, how big it is there, basketball, and I think soccer. It will continue to grow, in my opinion, just because the league has done a really good job of growing. They've had more teams now, more markets. I think 29 teams are in the league now, 3 being Canadian. Never know if another Canadian market gets something. I don't know, Ottawa. But I think that as time goes on, the MLS will just have to find ways to appeal to the younger markets. I think they've done a pretty good job in that. The Apple TV deal is going to, continue to change things, just moving forward and how people consume the game. It is a younger league. Let's face it. The MLS is younger compared to the other major leagues in North America. So it's going to take some time. It has taken time for them to establish themselves. But I think that soccer in general, speaking from MLS terms, is still big here in Canada. And then just talking about Canada Soccer real quick, the Canadian men were just at the World Cup like 9 months ago. So I still think that, there is momentum here, and we're looking forward to the next World Cup for sure, because we are hosting it. And I think with that being said, as the years go forward and as we get closer to that time, I think that the soccer population in Canada is going to be here to stay, and it might be even bigger by that time.
Well, and you have to think that with Messi going to Miami, is there a comparison of David Beckham for when he suited up for the Galaxy? Maybe it's a grander scale because Messi is perhaps top three in football history in terms of the greatest. And of course, a rising star is Kylian Mbappe, and the word is that the Saudi domestic league is thinking about going and signing Kylian Mbappe. There is reports indicating that he is not interested in joining the Saudi league. But Tony, and obviously the money that is being rumored for Kylian Mbappe, I mean, it's totaling up to $1 billion with his contract alone and the transfer fee. I mean, if you're UEFA, the governing body for club football in Europe and football altogether, should they be doing everything possible? I mean, maybe this is a moot point right now because it doesn't seem that Mbappe is going to make his way to Saudi Arabia, but Cristiano Ronaldo did. So, I mean, you have to think that we're not going to be hearing much about Ronaldo, and the same case may happen for Mbappe if, in fact, he does go to Saudi Arabia.
Cristiano who? Well, I don't know what UEFA can do to stop it if it's possible. If he does decide to go, I don't know. This thing it's too big. It's a lot of money. It's really fast. I'm really skeptical of it. I know they were trying the same stuff in China a couple of years ago where they were bringing Iniesta in, and who's the Brazilian player's name? The guy with the one name. They all do.
They all
Hulk.
do, yeah.
Hulk. They were throwing big money around at these guys. Kylian Mbappe wants to go to Real Madrid. Bottom line. Paris Saint-Germain fucked that whole thing up. They should have just transferred him off last year when there was a year left on his contract. They relied on him not to screw the club over. So they're desperate. They need to sell him. And Mbappe doesn't have to move and go anywhere if he doesn't want to for the next year, and he becomes a free agent. And it's a tough situation, but I don't know what UEFA can do to stop this. There is a lot of money coming out of Saudi Arabia. It's an endless supply of funds. Personally, I'd rather watch MLS games than Saudi Arabian games because it's not a big deal to me. You're throwing money at a bunch of guys. It's great. It's interesting. It's cute, but it's not that big of a deal to me.
Well, and I mean, the Saudi leagues and even the leagues in China and where they had made massive acquisitions of star players, those leagues just haven't really taken off and have expanded their viewership, especially to this part of the world. And
without knowing what the television deals situations like there, how much people pay to get into the stadiums, how many people actually go into the stadiums to watch, like, are women allowed in the stadiums to watch games? I have no idea. Like, I've got no clue, and I have no desire to go out of my way to watch the Saudi league. I mean, if it pops up on DAZN because I subscribe to it, and if it's on, I'll watch it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I don't know, like, the Saudi thing is interesting for sure, just because of the money aspect of it. It's massive money. Like, personally, I would take it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, if you're giving me $1 billion for a paid internship 1 year, Mbappe, basically, this is what it is, I would do it.
But how can you say no?
He'd be crazy
it's just
not
1
to.
year. It's 1 year, and he still gets Madrid at the end of it, right? But I just think, though, it's a league that hasn't established itself yet. That's why they will try to, get guys that are, big names. We've seen it. Benzema, he's already there, things of that nature. But the only way I could see them even being a player is if they start to, get guys in their prime to find a way to go over there and not play in Europe. And just going back to the question, I mean, I would do anything in my power if I'm UEFA not to have Mbappe leave. right? He is the name. Him and Holland right now are the guys, moving forward. So you don't want to lose that, even if it's for 1 year. You don't want to lose that guy in his prime. He's 24 years old. And it's just intriguing because going back to the live golf point, what happened there with all that. Again, I was somebody that was for it. I was for live golf. I didn't really see an issue with it. I get it, the PGA allegiance everyone has, but again, if I'm a guy like Phil, I'm going. I'm sorry, I'm going. And they said it's not patriotic. Look, they've been bringing up this point all the time. The companies in America, who are they working with? Right, for the most part, it's so you're gonna go crazy about a golfer going over there doing the same thing. You can't really. It's two sides of the same coin. So I was with Liv for that. So this is it's just it's crazy.
I
Yeah,
think
they're a bunch of hypocrites.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's one player that ended up going there, Ruben Neves. He played for
Neves,
Wolves. I fucking love that player, and I kept asking a Portuguese worker of mine, I'm like, how is that guy not playing for a bigger club? That's just the type. Every time I watch him play, he just impacts the game. He should be at Real. He should be at Barcelona. Yeah. So I see him going to Saudi Arabia, and he's at a good age still. I believe he's 28. So it's kind of a prime year for him. Prime years for him. And his honesty was all that said it all. He goes, how can I deny my family, my family's family, the future of that family, my grandchildren, my grandchildren's children? How can I deny them that opportunity for a lifelong of just the best life you guys could possibly have with opportunities and safety and security? And you know what? You just kudos, tip your hat. You're being honest. You're going for the money. I don't know if that's going to make the game better in Saudi Arabia, but they're there for a reason. That's for sure.
Well, I think the what is preventing leagues like Saudi Arabia, club football in Japan, Korea, and so on, is that they don't have a Champions League format. I think that I don't really know, and Tony, especially you follow club football a lot more, passionately than myself. But it seems that like with Bundesliga, for example, it's always Bayern. I mean, you think of Serie A, and for the longest time it's been Juventus, and they're really there isn't that level of parity. And with regards to the Saudi league, it's just it seems now, and I haven't really examined it closely, but it seems that it's one or two teams, and that's it for the entire country. There's nothing involving all of the Middle East or Asia, and even if it did, nobody's going to pay attention.
I think there is, Randy. I think they do have like an Asian Cup, and I think North America is hosting the first ever Club World Champions League Cup in a couple of years.
Yeah. I forgot what year it is.
But I mean, like, there's 25, no scale.
I believe. So I'm assuming like the champions of Saudi Arabia or that region will be participating in it as well.
What I was alluding to is that even if there was is a Champions League format, that it's not going to take to anywhere else other than that particular community. I mean, look at club football in South America. South America, dare I say, the home of international soccer, Brazil, Argentina. I, for one, don't know much about club football in Brazil, Argentina, and so on. Their Champions League, their club football format, I mean, it doesn't even come close.
Well, it's because their best players are littered all over Europe. That's why. Right. So, right. But locally within those teams, I mean, there's a passion for them, 100%. Sure. The Copa Libertadores is how they got. I think I said it right.
Yeah, you had a great roll of the tongue there. Well done.
That's a huge deal down there for them. So, but I don't know what the infrastructure is like. player safety in that neck of the woods is not the greatest. I know there are a lot of young South Americans coming to MLS on, designated player deals, and they love the lifestyle. They love the living in anonymity. So there is that factor as well. There's a lot of talent everywhere in soccer, and it's tough to keep up. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like it's tough to upkeep all the talent that's sprinkled all over the world. I mean, there are gems everywhere. Right now in Africa, you have gems that nobody even knows of yet. And unfortunately, they might end up, emigrating over to France or something. And it probably would be nice to keep some of them in those countries, because you could have a Nigeria or an Ivory Coast actually contend, or a Ghana contend for a World Cup, and so I think soccer is going nowhere. And if the proper television deals pop up, I think more people will probably tune in and watch. I just don't know where to watch the Saudi Arabian league right now.
You got to stream it on like a random Reddit.
And I won't.
stream.
And I have zero desire to do that,
Yeah.
especially while Ronaldo's there.
Yeah. Well, guys, to that, we will end things off with our rapid fire segment. And Jelani, we do call it big deal, no big deal. So essentially, I am going to pose an item to you, and you're going to tell me if you think it is a big deal or no big deal. And, speaking of Champions League or international club tournaments, the League's Cup is taking place. It is its first year. And Toronto FC, of course, had a terrible debut performance with a 5-0 drubbing against New York City FC. But, Tony, with such programs like CONCACAF Champions League, now we have the League's Cup. Is the League's Cup a big deal or no big deal?
To me, it's no big deal. I think there's too much. There's too much overkill. Nations. There's too much soccer, and these players, I don't know how they do it. I think if they were unionized, there probably wouldn't be as many games as they get. I don't know how they do it. You get 2 weeks off, and you're moving on, playing some internationals. You might get a week in vacation, and then boom, your preseason started. Like these guys playing for Man United, Real Madrid, they're in the States on tour. They're together. It's so annoying. And the League's Cup is just a ridiculous money grab. It means nothing to me. I mean, I have watched a couple. Obviously, I watched the Messi game, but how prestigious could it possibly be? Really, it just looks so stupid to me. It just looks like a money grab. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not going to go watch the game on Sunday, primarily because they got their asses handed to them last night. I was thinking of going, but I'm like, fuck that. But no, not a big deal.
It's interesting you say that because as mentioned, you follow European club football, and I mean, there's Champions League and Europa, and you mentioned of those tours that European teams do in North America, and it just seems like North American soccer is trying to emulate what is taking place in Europe. And if I was a soccer player playing in North America, I mean, it seems that you would want to play as much as you can and take part in these tournaments. I mean, I was watching the New York Toronto match, and especially those New York fans, the players and the team seems really, really into it. TFC, not so much. So, I mean, it does seem like that there is something to it, that there is an
interest. These guys are competitors. When they're on the field and they're playing in the game, they can't fake the competition. They're going to, Toronto FC, that's a different story. But, when they're on the pitch and they're playing, they can't fake it. They're competing. They want to try and win, obviously. Now you talk about fans. I think there was 4 people, including family, at the game last night. So I don't know how much it resonated, but they were playing the game at Red Bull Arena. So I guess the New York City fans didn't want to make the trip over to Jersey to watch the game. I don't know. It's just
It's a filler. It's a filler.
Yeah, and why have that filler, right? Like, I'd rather watch MLS games, and then you finish the season earlier instead of having the MLS Cup in the middle of December when you're closing in on playoff picture for the NFL. I think you're just making yourself irrelevant by doing stuff like that.
Well, you have to wonder what the relevance is for the NBA and for the first time this upcoming season, the NBA will be having an in-season tournament. Toronto, teams will be divvied up amongst teams, not so much within their regular season division alone, but there will be an in-season tournament, and there's a lot of parallels to not only Leagues Cup with soccer, but of course Champions League. Jelani, as a big basketball guy, is the in-season tournament for the NBA a big deal or no big deal to you?
This is the biggest no big deal ever. Like, I don't know why they're doing this. This is terrible. I don't want this. What's the incentive? What, 500K, I believe, is divvied up and divided between them. But I like, is that really going to make these guys want to do this? I know it's at the start of the season because it's embedded in the regular season. I get that. You want these guys to do things in the regular season. But NBA Cup, like, is this going to be my fear is that moving forward, this is going to be something that changes people's thoughts on player legacies. Oh, he didn't win an NBA Cup. He cannot be the GOAT. I don't want to hear that. That cannot be a part of the discussion. Okay. I can't afford that. Like, oh, Michael Jordan never got the NBA Cup. He can't be the GOAT. Like, don't give me that. All right. He's the GOAT. So I think this is like similar to the Leagues Cup. It's a money grab. The NBA is just trying to figure stuff out. Adam Silver has talked about it often. He loves the model of international football. He loves the model of having in-season tournaments, having all these jerseys. That's why you're seeing Nike give out new jerseys left and right to all these teams. He wants it to be like that. He wants to mimic the UEFA Champions League. And I think he's just playing around with a product that doesn't have to be played around with. I'm also somebody that feels the regular season, I don't like guys sitting out. I don't like all this, nonsense going on. So maybe this could do something. But again, it's at the start of the season. What's going to happen in January? That's when the dog days really start. It's like no one's trying to play at that time because the All-Star break's coming, all that sort of thing. So I think it's useless, truly. Will I be watching? Yes, it's the regular season. Will I care? No, I won't care. I don't care if I don't care if the Magic win the NBA Cup in 2023-24. I don't care.
But you know what? I mean, there is something, and I'm kind of on the same line as you, but there is something about dog teams actually playing for something, and if by some fluke they are a contender to win this tournament, why not? I mean, give them some sort of bone.
I don't know. Like, if the Jazz win, like, cool. Congrats to Markkanen and Clarkson. Like, I think if they had something, I don't know how, but if you had something that could allow a team to get some benefits for playoff time or for the draft, like get a draft pick guarantee or something like that, maybe that would help, the incentive, the overall incentive. But just handing out some cash that these guys won't find life-changing, these guys are probably going to be like, what is this? In the back of their minds, I know the players are like, what is this? Like, honestly, what is this? NBA Cup. So I just think this is, again, Adam Silver playing around with the league. The play-in thing I hated at the start, ended up liking it. So you never know. Maybe I might like this, but I like the NBA one certain way. I've grown up and watched it a certain way. I don't know what this is. I don't know.
Okay, so putting both of you on the spot, if you had to choose between the NBA in-season tournament final or the NBA All-Star game, what are you going to choose?
Oh,
I know what I will.
The final.
It's not the All-Star game.
Well, absolutely. That's an easy.
Final.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
You served up a spike there. You served up an easy spike.
Well, maybe there's something to it. I mean, like,
what would you rather watch? Now, would you rather watch the NBA Cup final or the League Cup final?
Oh man, none of the above. Yeah.
Well, I'd watch the
Ah,
okay. Well, hey, and obviously we're just guessing right now. It'd be interesting to see what happens when it actually takes place. But you think teams are going to roll out their best lineups? Because if you're doing that, and if you're because obviously load management has just evolved to a complete mess, but you have a in-season tournament game. I'm wondering if teams are going to Jelani's point. I think that this may sort of uh, not so much eliminate, but do something with regards to load management. I mean, the league has to do something about that.
Yeah, I think that's why they've installed this plan, just to have it, kind of take down the amount of load management that we're seeing. But I don't know, man. Like the question on if they're gonna roll out their best lineups out there, or like lineups that we would see in May or June for the real playoffs. I don't know, because there might be some games, like even during this, there might be some guys that are like, I don't want to play. So I don't even know if this is going to even stop load management. It might not. You might have one night where a team is coming off of a tough loss. If it's a back to back, or even if it wasn't a back to back, they just might be like, I don't really care for this right now. We're playing Charlotte on a Tuesday night on League Pass. Nobody's watching this. I don't care. Like, so I think I don't know. I don't know how much it's going to really change things. If it is successful, if it ends up being successful, if the viewership is there for it, I don't know who's like carrying these games, these playoff games in Vegas or whatever, the Final Four. I don't know if it's ESPN or TNT. But if it's successful, I mean, you never know. If it brings in the money, you never know. It might be something that they will plan on having, and maybe they might install another one, have two
Okay.
during the season. I don't want that, but it's a possibility. If it brings in money, you never know.
Yeah. You never know. I'm a little bit intrigued about the in-season tournament. No, but one in-season tournament is definitely my limit. Hey guys, where's Dan? I mean, what happened? What happened to Dan? Oh, actually, Dan did mention that he did have a something come up. And did have to leave early. So I definitely want to thank him. And Jelani, I really appreciate you joining us today. Hope you had a great
No
time.
problem.
And if there is an opportunity to have you back, we'd love to do so.
Oh yeah, just let me know and I'll be here. Yeah, I had fun.
No, thanks so much, Tony. Thank you so much as always, man. Really appreciate all the time you give to this podcast.
my pleasure. My pleasure. I love you. I love you. And good luck with everything, Jelani. You're awesome, buddy.
Nice. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. For Tony Antoniou, Dan Leggieri, and Jelani Goodridge-Reid, I'm Randy Kure. This is What's Up the Sports Podcast. Information you could find at What's Up Podcast on Instagram and Twitter, as well as whatsuppodcast.blogspot.com. Hope you're doing well and keeping safe. We will talk to you next time.